Brutal Barracuda, a Sniper Elite channel.
So hello to everybody that has joined us for this AMA on Collectibles, Medals and Achievements. I will do a brief intro before we get cracking with some of the questions that you guys have sent in, which I have a list of here, which have all been fantastic. So I'll introduce myself, and then folks in the chat, feel free to introduce yourself as well. I am Tommy, and I am a community liaison, and I've been working closely with Sniper Elite and Zombie Army. Some of you may have seen me in the stream earlier. Thank you for tuning in for that as well. Anyway, on to the next person. Ryan.
Hi, I'm Ryan, and I'm lead designer on SE5. So I do all things game design.
Stefano. Yeah. So I'm Stefano. I am a junior game designer, and I, as well as Ryan, does everything related to game design. But Ryan does supervise everything I do to make sure everything is good for the fans.
Yeah, you can't use that as a get out, Stefano, in case anything goes wrong.
Yeah.
Carrie.
Okay, sure, I'll go. Hi, I'm Carrie. I am the accessibility designer, so I am all about making the game as accessible as possible, so as many people can play as possible.
Awesome. We'll be talking certainly a lot more about that later in the AMA. And then finally, Alistair.
Hello, I'm Alistair. I'm a senior level designer here at Rebellion, and top of all that, I deal primarily with the narrative-driven elements of the game, so dialogue, or in this case, collectibles, which is an exciting thing that I can actually talk about this week, unlike last week.
Amazing.
I know.
So this is obviously we've covered a lot of ground so far on Sniper Elite in these AMAs, but this is quite a niche. This is quite a niche one. So in terms of questions, we've had some very interesting ones, and you'll hear lots of familiar names come up. Some of you have multiple questions, and we really thank you for that. So I'm going to get the ball rolling in that case, and I'm going to start with probably the most controversial one, and I'm looking at you, Ogre, wherever you are. I don't know. I can't see you in there. No, I can see Ogre in there. And Ogre's question was, do we get How Deep Is Your Snow trophy? Because I have a suspicion that Ogre is addicted to snow, and it's never been fully discussed or determined. And the answer to that is a resounding no. If you love snow, then you can go to Allegra Fortress, where there's plenty of it. But as far as I'm aware, there is no snow in Sniper Elite 5. I think it looks very summery as far as I'm aware.
Not a lot of snow in the French summer.
Not a lot of snow. Let me just go to where the chat is, because I'm currently got all kinds of stuff up at the moment, which is not helpful. There's the questions page. I'm sure Ogre's putting me on blast in the chat. Allegra's not a snow map. Right. Okay. Thank you for that, Ogre. I'm glad we got that out of the way. Call to Tom, who is a long-serving Sniper Elite fan. It's more of a statement, but maybe you can elaborate on this, folks. I hope there will be at least one achievement for completing a map undetected without kills. Over to you guys. What is that something that might potentially rear its head within the game?
There's not a specific achievement to do that, although you can attempt to do that on several of the levels. We've got a lot of similar sort of style achievements that are tough to do. Stefano, you've probably got some better examples than me, as you've done a lot of the achievement and medal related stuff.
Yeah, basically we have a very tough achievement, which is basically completing a mission without ever healing. So we have more of those like difficult achievements to obtain that are not tied to a difficulty, because we wanted to allow all of our players to obtain those, even if they had to like practice a bit more than the more experienced ones. And we do have a a graph at the end of each level that will show you basically if you have been detected. So potentially that could be used by players who want to complete a mission or authentic without ever being detected. They could use that graph to show it to friends and families or in YouTube to be like, hey, I actually finished this level in authentic without ever being detected. But besides that, we do have some quite big challenges on the medals, the ribbons, and achievements.
So yeah, you're
Awesome.
right. There's definitely good ways to show that off, isn't there, with the playstyle graph, which is a really fun part of the game and really encourages people to replay as well. We found a lot of people engaging with it quite a lot and seeing if they naturally can get to the extremes of the graph as well, see if they can be as
Yeah.
non-lethal or in a lot of cases as lethal as possible.
We had
And
that in the office
really good.
itself, like on the chat of the office, people being like, "Hey, I don't think anybody can ever finish this mission without like being detected." And someone would go and do it, and they share their playstyle graph and be like, "Hey, I did it without being detected."
Yeah, it'd be good to see what people do.
Nice. Well, I'm just reading the chat, so I'm just going to address a couple of panicked people. Nove, you have questions coming up. In fact, you have 4 questions coming up. Panic not. And Ogre, you have also 2 questions that are applicable to answer, as we probably didn't really understand the snow one. Anyway, I think actually you touched upon it anyway. Another question from Core to Tom is, what's the hardest achievement in the game? And he wants a really tough challenge. Now, I think, yeah, like you said, Stefano, you may have touched on that, but you may want to elaborate.
Yeah, so basically we have different types of achievements. The most difficult for me, it was basically be the one where you have to go into a specific mission and destroy all the vehicles we have in game. It's especially tough one because destroying one tank, for example, is already complicated, but having to destroy a tank plus 8 or 9 other vehicles in a mission is a bit challenging. You have to plan everything a little bit more strategical. And also, as I said before, the one that you have to finish a mission without ever healing. It seems to be quite a difficult one, in my opinion.
Yeah, that sounds horrendous. And as I found in the stream today, both Jordan and I were made into Swiss cheese. So if anyone is able to get that, then you are a better person than I am. Great question, Corton. Thank you for that. Right, heading over to Nove. I know you're waiting with bated breath, and I've seen your question, and they're about to get answered. There's 4. You've got 4 questions because you have been very active, and I appreciate these questions in correspondence with this AMA. So Nove, I hope you're sitting down. Will SE5 have an authentic achievement for beating it without saving, like SE4's better than the best?
So we do have an achievement for completing the campaign on authentic, but we don't block you from saving on this one. We don't require that. But that is something, if you're strong-willed, you can do yourself and show off to everybody anyway. Maybe you should not do any saves and not even rely on the checkpoints if you've got enough willpower and skill. And just, if you die, that's it. Restart.
Okay. There's blowback in the chat, but
Oh,
are there any funny achievements like SE4's the Nutcracker Suite or SE3's well?
I mean, I think the best one to mention is just the testicle achievement when you have to like shoot someone in testicles. That is a staple of the franchise. But I think the UI team and us over the design, we have tried the best to make it more fun on the naming of the achievements and the icons of the achievements. I'm sure a lot of players will find them extremely funny.
Awesome. I'm really looking forward to seeing how some of the certainly I'm looking forward to seeing some of the funny ones, but it's the ones where the authentic crew come into play that because that's a realm of skill that I am so far removed from.
I mean,
but
sorry to interrupt.
yeah, no,
We
go for it.
We also have some fun achievements as well in Kill Hitler. Basically, you will have a lot of time to kill Hitler and a lot of methods, and some of them are quite funny, and some of the achievements are also extremely funny in that mission specifically.
they've done a lot of great work with the icons in there, particularly, haven't they? Which I'm looking forward for people to see.
Yeah, I wish one of them we could make into a plushie, but we will see if that happens because it's so adorable and so funny.
I'm looking
Nice.
at them now and I'm trying to work out what one you want to be a plushie, Stefano. I'm hoping it's not covert elimination.
No, that would be a bit difficult.
Just a reminder, folks, by the way, I've already seen lots of you doing it already. If you do have questions outside of the ones that we've got listed here, feel free to keep popping them into the Sniper Elite 5 question section of the Discord page. Keep them coming; they're brilliant, and I'll try and feed them back to the team. So part 4 of Nove's question obliteration: which department or team creates the list for achievements, and does Rebellion have a theme in mind when creating them?
I think, well, the specific departments, it's mostly design and level design. We work together on making achievements, but we do get input from all other departments because most people are interested in making fun achievements and have lots of fun ideas of what they can do. And there's several of them that are very much tied into specific levels as well. So obviously, level designers want to be heavily involved in those and figure out what they can and can't do. And there's also a lot of medals as well. So I know we're talking about achievements specifically here, but there's a lot of medals that some of them similar in style to achievements. They can be one-off things. There's lots of them that are like longer term goals where you can get a bronze, silver, and gold sort of thresholds for them. But there's a lot of interesting stuff in there, and it takes a lot of people from different departments coming up with all these cool ideas and turning them into reality.
I mean, I remember having a discussion with Alistair for like maybe like an hour on which achievements would be cool for the level he was developing, and everybody has such great ideas, basically.
Love it. And finally, Nove, which collectibles will have background stories tied to them? Those are always fun to read.
Oh, I'm glad you asked. So as you may have seen from the stream earlier, where Tommy and Jordan showed everyone how best to efficiently die all the time. Our collect. Excuse me. Maybe next time complete the level, Tommy. How's about that for an idea? Yeah, the collectibles that you pick up in the game obviously give you intel. They're all tied in together and a lot more involved in this one than they were in prior titles. To the end, we've kept it a lot tighter and a lot more well connected, and there's more of a through line through the level, through the conversations that are in there as well. But all the collectibles have stories or impact that justify things that are in the level. Maybe if it's something that you don't see at the time, it explains why things are the way they are in that level, or give you intel for what to do next, or what, you know, where you should be looking to find that officer with a key. Like, it'll give locations for where they are, like say where people have been moved to. Like, I think I'm rambling a bit, but yeah, so all the collectibles in the game, we've tried to make sure they all have relevant information that ties into the level, and you know, anyone that's mentioned in that, if it mentions a character that's in the level by name, then we'll make sure the binocular information is relevant and it all matches up. And we just try and keep that stuff in there because we know that you guys like those stories, and obviously we like following through with them as well. So it's definitely something that we've put in, and it's something you can all look forward to seeing in the final product.
Awesome. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing that all play out.
You'll have to survive longer than half the level, Tommy.
Well, I will certainly be. I was under a lot of pressure in that. Well, actually, no, I was distracted by going another route, and I had a pre-planned route that I thought would be perfect, and
wasn't
I
your
got
fancy
busted
bomber jacket?
It wasn't my fancy bomber jacket, which
Distracting
everyone is jealous of. I will move swiftly on to the hero of Sniper Elite and Team Wolf, now Team Mercenary member, Brutal Barracuda. How many, which achievements are tied to authentic difficulty?
Right, so we don't have many achievements tied to authentic. We do have some medals, as I explained before, that are quite difficult to obtain and will require players to actually understand the level, understand the mechanics that we put in Sniper Elite 5, because we wanted to keep our hardcore players in mind without obstructing the newcomers, without having those new people who are basically in the game and they want to collect achievements. They're like, oh, well, I cannot actually collect this one because it's very difficult for me. So we try to keep achievements as accessible as possible, but we do have certain medals, ribbons, and as I said before, the playstyle graph to show off your skill, your level of like mastery of the game itself.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
One of the best things, really, though, for people to show off how good they are on authentic is going to be the playstyle graph, because that can really give proper sort of detailed information of how well you're doing, how long it's taken you to complete a level, how stealthy you were, how non-lethal or lethal you were, depending on what it is that you're trying to show off, what difficulty you played on. So I think that's going to be a key thing for people to use as bragging rights in this version of the game.
And that graph is unique to Sniper Elite 5, unless I
this is the first time we put this in.
Yep.
It's really good. It's really good fun as well. It really encourages you to try all the different play styles, because that's one of the key things. Obviously, with Sniper Elite 5 is what different ways you're going to play, and seeing. It'd be interesting to see if people manage to get sort of a middle of the graph playthrough, but manage to play the same level into the sort of extremes and the different sort of corners or edges of the graph, and see if they can manage to do that, because it takes some real sort of careful planning and playing if you want to reach any of those corners of the graph, because you need to make sure you don't mess up at any point throughout the mission. And it's a real challenge, but it's really good fun.
Blue Streak WT asks, will we have similar story themes in the collectibles as we do in SE4? I know there are some really good hidden gems in there where the letters to, from, home link to each other, etc.
So kind of already answered this with Nove's question, but yeah, that will definitely be something that's in it. Like I said before, we try and make sure that everything that you can pick up in the game in this one feels connected to something else you can get in the game. Again, ties into the binocular tag info when you tag people. Again, we know that's something that you guys like in the series, so it's something we really leaned into in this, and tried to really refine down and get a very good experience for you all to enjoy.
Awesome. Heading over to Queen of all mods, Ogre Frometh Helleth. Any achievements, rewards tied to playing the tutorial we should know about?
I mean, the tutorial is quite short and to the point. We don't want people to not play the game and spend hours on the tutorial. So we did hide there's a medal in the tutorial level that some people will be able to collect, but as I said, the tutorial itself is more for like newcomers or people who need a refreshment rather than just spending a lot of time in it. But there is definitely a medal tied to the tutorial.
It's very
Cool.
open. It's quick to get through the tutorial. It's nice and open. It's got a bit of sort of setting up narrative side of things. It's not something that feels like a very handholdy or strict tutorial at all.
I
Very
will
look
say
forward to
for
looking
any.
forward to trying it.
Sorry, you finish your thing, Ryan. Didn't mean to
Like,
interrupt you.
go for it. I'm done.
I will say for any eagle-eyed shots out there or ballistic bollock busters, if you manage to score a nut shot as your first kill in the game, Jeff Sullivan, the US guy from the trailers, he'll have a special comment to make. So there's fun little things in there for that.
Oh, nice. Well, that's something I'll be looking out for. Will the score? This is Ogre again. Thank you, Ogre. By the way, will the score of the mission get a special treatment like bronze, silver, and gold badges in Zombie Army 4?
So we don't
So,
have score in that style in the sort of ZA4 style of way, but we do have we have stars that you get on the result screen, so you can get different stars for doing different things. So for just completing the primary objectives, killing the kill list target, completing the optional objectives, so you can see how well you've done. And as mentioned a couple of times already, there's the playstyle graph as well at the end, so you can see how you're playing and try and figure out if you want to go back and improve on that or try a completely different approach. So there's definitely information on the end of that screen and something to work towards if you don't quite manage to get all of those stars on your first playthrough. So yeah, there's incentives there to carry on trying.
We also have medals tied to those stars themselves and achievements. So if you really want to like collect all of the medals, collect all of the achievements, you will have to have those a certain number of stars on each level.
Right, that concludes the first portion of community ones. We also had some as well, but before I jump into those, I would like to kind of segue slightly. I know that Carrie had probably a much more smooth segue to do, but I'd like Carrie to slip in and talk about what she's going to bring to games moving forward.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, I'll slide on in here. So yeah, I think first of all, like, what is accessibility in video games? Like, people hear and they think about like players with disabilities, but accessibility really is about breaking down barriers. Like, as developers, we can unnecessarily create barriers in our games, which means that players can't play them, and that's bad because we're cutting off people. So basically, we want to try and make sure that we're breaking down as many of those as possible. And accessibility doesn't just cover disability. You know, there are loads of things that affect people's experiences that aren't registered disabilities. Color blindness, you know, maybe you've broken your arm and you can only play with one hand, or maybe you're playing in a noisy room, or you've got kids running around, all that kind of stuff. Like, accessibility benefits everyone, and it's kind of something that like we should all be considering. So, I mean, like, maybe want to talk about like how do we make games more accessible? And fundamentally, that's just kind of by listening to our players and listening to the community. Like, by consulting with gamers who experience disabilities, then we can see what barriers they face. But then also sort of talking to the community, we can see what barriers you have, our players directly have, and ways that we can improve it for you. One thing that the accessibility community always kind of says is like nothing about us without us, which I think is really quite neat. But yeah, so like, I mean, I was looking through some of the questions already, and there's been questions about whether or not there'll be like a field of view slider implemented. And as far as I know, there isn't one, but you know, never say never. And there's also going to be an accessibility channel added to the Discord. So
Yes.
you can actually go in and say, yes, go for it. Yeah, we'll be adding
there
that
is.
in.
I forgot to mention. Yeah, it is now in there. There is now.
Oh, excellent.
If you go into discussions, folks, right at the bottom there, you can see accessibility. So if you do have any queries on that front or suggestions, feel free to drop them in, because Carrie will be in there to feed them back to the team here. So without further ado, carry on, Carrie. Sorry to
Yeah,
jump
no,
in there.
no, it's fine. Go for it. I mean, so much responsibility now. I've got a room to look after. But yeah, I mean, like, I think something else I probably need to chat about is the fact that I'm pretty new here. Like, there have been a lot of amazing people who have been accessibility advocates at Rebellion for a really long time, but it was kind of decided recently that there should be a dedicated role. So that is why I am here. And I've been here like a little bit over a month. But basically, my job is to facilitate everybody else and to make sure that everyone else can make the most inclusive design choices possible. And, you know, kind of looking at what standards do our games need to meet, looking at talking to the community to find out what things we need to be doing, and how do we consider accessibility as early as possible. So even though like accessibility designer is my job title, it takes an army, and it's thanks to all of the amazing work of all of the devs at Rebellion that means that we can break these barriers and have as many people as possible playing our games.
I think it's
but
really
yeah.
great that that's now something that is being thought more about, because I think there are lots of the community that have a number of struggles that will mean that playing their favorite game requires all kinds of, well, ultimately it means that they can't play the games like it should be, and so to be honest, I didn't know much about it myself, so I was wondering, in terms of other companies, is that something that you feel is a really new push to get that a bit more open?
So yeah, I mean, like there has been a lot of chat in the industry that like, oh, accessibility is quite a new thing. Like we have a lot of stuff that's going on. Xbox have got accessibility tags that they've introduced onto their like titles, and PlayStation have like a new accessibility section in their store. So like even though it is actually something that's been around for quite a while, like it is kind of more of a new thing that like devs are looking into. How can we do this and how can we do it better? I mean, like the thing with it is that we're always pushing to new standards. And like The Last of Us 2 is really leading in terms of accessibility, but there's a lot of really cool new things that are coming up as competitors to that. So yeah, TLDR, I think it's pretty new in terms of a dev space, even though the concept has been around for a good while.
We actually do have some questions, Carrie. Are you prepared for some questions?
Oh God, maybe? Yeah.
Put you on the spot here. So, someone has asked, have you ever considered collaborating with non-profits like Able Gamers?
Oh, absolutely. So where I worked where I worked before I came to Rebellion, I used to work with Able Gamers to do a lot of like player panels. So we would recruit players to play the game and kind of like use that as testing, which is another really great way to make sure that you have good accessibility in your games, is to actually get the people that need those features to play your games. And I'm pretty sure that Rebellion's really interested in working with like other kind of charities. I know in the UK we have Special Effect and things like that. So that's something I'm really interested in doing. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, we've worked quite closely with Special Effect in the past, and I imagine we will continue to do so. I think it's always a good start, and it's even better now that we've got you on board to kind of really drive that, really push that forward. Specific to Sniper Elite 5, can you talk a little bit about the settings that will be available to our players from launch?
Absolutely. So I think probably one of my favorite things about Sniper Elite 5 is the difficulty customization. And like, so we talked about accessibility being barriers. Difficulty is basically barriers. How difficult something is depends on how well you're going to be able to play it and if you're going to be able to do it. And Sniper has so much in terms of customizing the difficulty, which I think is fantastic because I am infamously bad at video games. I really suck at them. So being able to turn things down a bit lower or give myself a little bit more of an edge kind of really helps me. And I think that then kind of ties in a little bit to like the achievements and the medals that we're talking about today. Like there's only one achievement which is tied to authentic in the base game. And that's kind of because we want everyone to feel like an elite regardless of how well you play or what difficulty you're playing on. So, we want those achievements to be as accessible as possible so anyone can get them and feel good about themselves. So even me, if I've got it on a really low difficulty and I'm headshotting people with the max aim assist on, I can still feel pretty badass, even though I'm not running through it on authentic. So yeah, so the difficulty stuff I'd say is absolutely awesome. There's a lot of really cool other things. We have color blindness adjustments for sort of like the stealth markers, which I'm super, super stoked about. Because yeah, previously it's kind of not been very colorblind accessible to some people. So now you have options to change those colors. So you can change what your team looks like and what an enemy looks like when they're investigating versus them being in combat. So hopefully colorblind players can engage with that system a bit more, especially as we were kind of talking about, well, I'm not sure if like the graph at the end of the level's been mentioned already. I'm not sure if that's been mentioned, but different play styles and having stealth being a big part of that. Through these colorblind adjustments, we're going to be able to make it so that our players can actually engage with that a lot more.
Awesome. Yeah, we did touch on that. Yeah, we did touch on that.
Yeah, I think so. Just once or twice, But yeah, I think in terms of other accessibility settings, there's going to be a lot in terms of like full remapping on keyboard and mouse. We've got a lot of different controller presets as well, including, so we have 3 kind of presets for the controller layout, and then all of them have left-handed variants as well, which swaps the sticks over. So hopefully with this kind of like range of input remapping, we can make that as accessible as possible to people that want to have the controls laid out in a different way too.
Awesome. I mean, yeah, I'm really excited about. It just really does open up the potential for everyone. Because I mean, I'd imagine for people who have accessibility issues, you know, looking at their favorite game sometimes, you know, it might be a daunting prospect that they're going to have to really go above and beyond and find kind of expensive technology to maybe accommodate them, that kind of thing. And if we're kind of covering those bases before that needs to happen, then it's really exciting to think that we'll have you know, more community members feeling like you say, feels as special as everyone who plays the game currently, you know.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that is really awesome. And yeah, obviously, Carrie, you've not been here for very long, but yeah, there's some great projects that we've got coming up. Obviously, Sniper Elite is, you know, but literally a month away now. So for those sat there who maybe were on the fence, worried about that kind of thing, we've got you covered. Carrie is here to make things a little easy for you guys.
Absolutely, and I think it's sorry.
No, go
I
for
was
it. Go
just
for it.
gonna,
Go for it. Jump in whenever.
yeah.
Jump in whenever.
Thank you. Yeah, I just want to say as well, we will be publicizing all of the accessibility features that Sniper Elite 5 is going to have ahead of launch, and we'll be going through those in quite a lot of detail. We'll have it on there's a site called the Family Video Game Database, so it'll be up there, and we're also going to have some stuff in our help center specifically about how to access certain settings. But yeah, we're trying to make it as transparent as possible so that players know if they're going to be able to play before they even buy it, because that's really important as well. The worst thing would be to like buy a game and then just be like, oh no, I can't play this, oh dear.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, that's such good news. I think we'll likely go. We're gonna like I say, we've got the accessibility section now for that kind of thing to go in. So if you are interested in knowing what your accessibility options are and what a lot of, and hopefully a lot more about what Carrie's going to implement moving forward, then please feel free to jump into that accessibility section and post any questions or suggestions. We love to hear from you. Obviously, likewise on social media, we and even on our general chat, if you've got any questions or suggestions for our dev team, then we are always open to hearing them. And you know, on occasion, it's quite easy to get stuff implemented as well. Equally, it can be quite challenging, in fact, more often than not. But we definitely appreciate you guys getting in as involved as possible, because it ultimately makes for a pretty great game. Let's head back to unless Carrie, do you have anything more to add? Because I mean, obviously, we could keep going with accessibility.
It's dangerous to ask me that because I could honestly talk about it for hours. So it's probably best to move on and then maybe come back later if we have more time. So
Okay, yeah, not a problem at all. Not a problem at all. I feel like we've got some great questions for some medals and achievement. Let me scooch back up because there's a ton up here, guys. Let me see what we got. Can any of you guys in the dev team see anything that stands out for you that we can ask? Oh, what about Ernie? Can you answer what are some of the collectibles? Can you give some ones that might be more obvious?
Yeah, certainly. So we've got, so obviously back in Sniper 4, you had such things like letters from home. And a whole bunch of categories. And as I've said before, in our effort to make it a bit more refined, our collectibles, paper-wise, that you pick up, fall into personal letters and confidential documents, which are the more military-driven things that you'll find deeper behind the enemy lines, while the personal letters are obviously more informal and personable. And then on top of that, we've also got our personal items that you can find in the field. These are, as some of you may remember from last week when Simon spoke about photogrammetry, these are little art pieces that we've made high-def 3D models of that you can view and find in the level. And again, the idea with this, I think Jordan possibly has touched on this in the past, where we do like to try and sneak in history stuff into the game. So the personal items are more, they've got nothing really to do with the level, but they do tie in to the background narrative. So I just mean in terms of you won't really typically get intel from them, except for in a few cases. But with those, there'll be nice little insights into events with the level, events with the historical period at the time. And then, of course, we've also got the Stone Eagles, which I know everyone is constantly
Yes.
asking after.
Yes,
But,
I was about to ask actually.
So we've got the old favourites, and we've got some twists on the ones we've got. We've got entirely new ones going in.
Amazing.
We also have this time round as well. We have our workbenches accounted as collectibles.
Yeah.
So there's something to go hunting for. We've talked about those. Talked about them in a previous Discord with Lawrence when we were talking about weapons. So workbenches are the things you can find in the resistance caches and the Axis armories hidden across the levels. They all have a bit of a challenge to get into, whether that's sort of like a bit of a traversal challenge where finding a key, or if you want to, you can just loudly blast your way through lots of them. But when you get into those, they've got a bunch of supplies and a workbench. And those workbenches, when you access them, unlock you an attachment pack that you can use to customize your weapons. But yeah, there's 3 of those in every level, and you will require to do a bit of hunting around to find those, and then a little bit of figuring out how to get in there and access them. But they're really good. They're good fun as well. And add an extra sort of layer to our collectibles that you'll be hunting around for in the levels.
I mean, I also hope players will be hunting around for like items that will be tracked for medals as well, because we do have some of them hidden around that you have to basically find and destroy, and those counts for medals as well as the other collectibles.
Awesome. I
Yeah,
am
there's lots of
going to be very busy post-release searching for these things, especially those Stone Eagles, because they seem to pass me by very easily in Sniper Elite 4. Are we going to get achievements by playing invasion mode as the Axis sniper?
I mean, we have achievements for like multiple game modes, so you can definitely expect some there. Perhaps you will have to like play and find out by yourself, but we do have achievements in different game modes.
Amazing. Let me scooch down here. Is there an achievement for collecting all medals?
Sadly, no. We
Sadly
don't
not.
have an achievement for collecting all of the medals for the same reason of different players are gonna play our game. Perhaps some players want to collect all of the achievements, but don't have the time to collect all of the medals, or don't have the skills to collect all of the medals. As I said, some of the medals are more targeted towards players that are more skillful than others. So we wanted to avoid that gap of like, well, basically you have to like collect all of our 50 plus medals to just get that specific achievement.
Right. Okay. Let me just scooch through. Apparently, Guintium says I sound funny. I don't know why I would sound funny. Maybe it's because I've been chatting all day about the stream, Guintium. And my voice is probably on the way out, which doesn't bode well for me when I'm battle crying at paintball tomorrow. Um, I think Core Tom, we've already answered that. I think we have some general questions from us. For the completionists among us, do you have any top tips for ticking off every collectibles, medals, and achievements?
Collectibles wise, look everywhere. We've tucked some of them away in some hard to find places. So yeah, you're gonna have to bust out the old detective's cap and binoculars and get looking.
And there's always little bits and pieces that can help you as well. If you go around tagging people, you'll be able to find out if certain enemies are holding a collectible or something like that. So yeah, you have to keep your eyes peeled, as Alistair said, and search everywhere.
Well, actually, it's funny. That came up in the stream today, and that was something I thought was really cool with the kind of information that you get by tagging people, kind of weapons.
Oh yeah, you saw it with the sniper, wasn't it? I think one of the
Yes,
snipers that you.
that's
that
very,
Jordan took
very
out.
cool. I mean, I know that full well that there are some completionists amongst us. God forbid anything goes wrong with those achievements, because we are the first to hear about it. They
That'll be
are,
fantastic, but I'm sure that there will be no problem.
yes, we've got the best of the best on the case. So fear not, folk. But yeah, completionists are the proper pros. No stone eagle is unturned. See what I did there?
We've also got all your medals and your ribbons as well. So you've got all those to collect, all those to sort out. And
those ones are a bit more difficult than to look around. I mean, collectibles are easy to find, but if you're trying to collect every single medal, you have to do a little bit better than just look around.
And
all
they'll
the
test you
while,
for other different play styles as well.
Exactly.
I think with the medals and ribbons. So,
yeah, and to take into account, this is all whilst trying to complete a mission whilst under heavy fire. So I don't know how some of you folk do it. I've heard whispers there are some very. I think we've covered that one. Okay, this one is quite an interesting one. Do you have a favorite achievement in the game, or one that's particularly memorable?
Do you want to start, Ryan?
Yeah, sure. I think my favorite one is the out of scope achievement. This is one where you've got to get a number of kills using a rifle's iron sights. So you need a rifle without a scope, and that drastically changes things. You can be totally mad and customize your rifle so that it doesn't have a scope at all. Or if you're wanting to go for more my sort of play style, instead is scavenge weapons that you find from dropped enemies or placed around the environment. And when you find rifles without a scope on, use one of those as opposed to ripping the ammo out of it. Actually use it for a while and get some of those great sort of iron sight kills, which and it's really fun trying to challenge yourself with the iron sights on a rifle to get those longer shots. It's really good fun. It's just be interesting to see how people adapt to that, because it's not something that's been easily doable for people in previous versions of the game.
I mean, just as you mentioned, the out of scope one and the scavenge weapons, so rifles without scopes. If you manage to get a scavenge rifle without a scope, you get kills with them, you will be progressing towards like 2 medals and 2 achievements. And that's also something we try to do with the achievements and the medals, to have them interconnected, some of them, so you don't have to like explicitly work for one of the medals or the other. You can do multiple if you're smart. As up to me, my favorite achievement in game, it's where you have to get a tank to destroy another vehicle in the game. I think it's quite interesting, that one, because you have to think tactically. You cannot just go out there and destroy the tank and that's it, or destroy the other vehicle. You have to be careful to not get spotted and perhaps like escalate everything in the level, but at the same time you have to manage the tank to destroy another vehicle. So it's a really interesting one, in my opinion, and it's my favorite one that we have in game.
I think for that one, the thing you got to be most careful of is not getting completely wrecked by the tank. The tank's tough this time around, and getting it to attack near you but take something else out is
really
a
scary
definite challenge.
Yeah,
they're good. I really enjoy them.
So, I mean, I think my favorite achievement. Okay, I've got 2. I got 2. Okay. One of them is snake in the grass, which is to do with like getting kills in tall grass, and I think it's cool because the snake is adorable on the little icon for it. We've talked about how cute we like that. But one of my favorite achievements is about performing lethal takedowns, because I quite enjoyed stabbing people in the face. So I got quite happy when I got that one, to be honest.
Here's me thinking that nice voice of yours made you a pacifist, and then you
Wanting
just
to make the
said,
game accessible for all, and then just
Yeah.
murdering.
I like stabbing people in the face.
Oh
Harry
no! Oh no!
Walker.
That's gonna come back and bite me.
Yeah,
Well,
sounds like
yes.
it. She's gonna be known for that for in the server.
It's honestly, it's because I can't aim. Okay, so it's much harder to miss someone when you're right in front of them. So that's that's the strat.
What? I'm taken aback. Flop has said in the chat, I don't know what to think about you anymore, Carrie. I'm terrified for my life.
Oh no, I'm so sorry.
So much violence for a I hide.
I promise.
I mean, she
promise.
has sparkles and from coming from her hand on her eyes as well from the profile picture. So I'll also be scared.
Oh yeah, there's a story behind that, but I won't dive into it.
Otherwise, they'll have to kill us from the sounds of it.
Yeah, sorry.
With their
Sadly.
close range murder.
Strange murder. I think one of the things, when it comes to coming up with, I know, Alistair, you write a lot of the bios and stuff for the characters, like some of the NPC characters in the game.
Mhm.
What is your inspiration for coming up with some of the the achievements and stuff like that? How do you go about? Where do you even begin?
Looking at what we've got in front of me right now, it would seem that my thought process at time of writing was, what Thundercats references can I throw in?
Oh, amazing! Well, as a massive Thundercats fan, that is awesome.
That, and of course for Kill Hitler, you're trying to work out how to use Führer in hilariously punful ways.
Please tell me there's a Thundercats reference in there somewhere.
Yeah, there is. I've just hence the Thundercats thing, but I'm not gonna.
Well, it might not actually have been in there, but I am gonna look now. Someone says Google Thundercats. Nove, I suppose Nove, you're quite. It's probably a lot before your time. I'm an '80s kid, so Thundercats was my absolute jam. So I'll be hunting like a demon in between getting.
It's to do with
by
the.
everybody.
It's to do with stuff that people have been bringing up already. The killing people with rifles when you're looking down the iron sights. So then, if you've got typically the writing process for it will be me and Stefano will be in a call going over what the achievement criteria is that gives you the reward, and then from there, so okay, let's try and think of a decent pun. So in this case, you're shooting down an iron sight, and in this particular case of it, shooting down an iron sight to kill someone at quite a long range. So of course, it's sight beyond sight.
Love
Just
it.
for a nice little fun there.
Massive spoiler.
I think we did amazing also with the Kill Hitler achievements and medals with the puns on those ones. They always crack me up when I read them.
Right to the point, from Führer away, furious repetition. It's just lots and lots of Strange Brigade experience, to be honest. And typically, if I can get someone to cringe in a call, I'm like, yep, that's going in the box.
How long have you been associated with like medals and achievements now?
Medals and achievements.
And collectibles also.
Since Strange Brigade, as I said, like the narrator and all that fun stuff was myself, and then Zombie just kept on top of it. And then
Did you write all
Sniper.
of the narrator's lines?
Not all of them. Obviously, Gordon Rennie was our main writer on it. It's a collaborative process.
Amazing. I think that narrator was literally one of the crowning glories of Strange Brigade. One of my favorite Rebellion games, by the way. What are we looking at for time? Oh, we've got 10 minutes. I think we can jump back to Carrie. I'd love to hear a little bit more about accessibility.
Hello. Well, actually, I've had a question, so I can answer that question. And it was about menu narration. So, like, to do with going over an option in a menu and then it being read out to you, and whether or not we'd sort of considered that. So menu narration is one of those things that's really critical for people with like low vision and blindness to actually like play independently. And it is something that's sort of very high up on the list of things that we want to get done. The caveat to that being that it is also one of the very big time consuming things that we need to kind of implement. So it is something that we have considered, but I think that's pretty much all I can say about it at the moment. It's something that we're thinking about and that we're looking into and investigating. Also, there was something else that I wanted to briefly say as well. If I go back to the questions thread, I mentioned somebody talking about the Zombie Army 4 port and the remapping on there. You can remap at a system level on the Switch, because I usually play on like Xbox, so I go in and I just remap the face buttons to match an Xbox controller. So I don't know if that's particularly helpful for you because obviously it does it at a system level as opposed to on a game level. But I don't know, maybe that helps. But yeah. So yeah, sorry. Tommy, did you have any like questions specifically to do with accessibility, or did you just want me to like talk in a direction and see how far I ramble?
Oh, nuts.
Oh God. Oh boy. Okay.
The floor is yours. The floor is yours, Gary. Ultimately, I
The
think
floor.
it's really interesting to find out more about you. Can you maybe talk a little about kind of maybe a bit about your background and how you came to how this became to be your focus?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So here we go. This is where I'm going to make myself sound weird. I was homeschooled through my primary school years, is what we call it in Scotland / maybe the rest of the UK. Not entirely sure. But yeah, I was homeschooled through my primary years, and then I went into high school, and I was completely like blown away by the education system because it was so kind of like one way. And like for someone who had been homeschooled, I had done a lot in terms of learning how I learn. So I'm a really visual person, so I like colors and mind maps and drawing little pictures and stuff like that. But unfortunately, I kind of noticed that there were loads of kids that were really struggling because they didn't know how to make the learning accessible to them. You know, like reading a textbook wasn't doing it for them. So like I ended up kind of helping my friends kind of figure out, you know, what's the best way for you to study and what's the best way for you to do this. And that's when I kind of learned about different communication channels and different ways that people process information. And that was kind of where that really started for me. And then in uni, I did a accessible interfaces project, my honors project, which was all about creating a little origami kit and how many different ways I could like make an interface that would teach someone to do that. And one of the like really standout moments for me was I was showing it off at a zoo somewhere, and this family came in that didn't speak any English, and they were able to do it. And I was like, I have beaten the language barrier. I was really proud of myself. So, but yeah, that's kind of like where it came from. And like accessibility in games, it's just that games are for everyone, you know. And like I grew up experiencing games, and they were an escape for me. You know, I could run off into my fantasy worlds and fight my dragons and all that kind of stuff, and it was just something that was so important to me. And when I kind of realized that there were all these barriers for people in the same way that there had been for learning, it made me really want to be a part of that and be a part of just making sure that as many people as possible can play games. So that's kind of how I ended up here.
Well, we're certainly lucky to have you, that's for sure. I mean, what I love about Rebellion is that we are very conscious of like evolving, moving forward, changing things up, and certainly we are really appreciative of our community. And it's always a pleasure having you guys get involved, like these AMAs and our streams, and getting on our forums. And we really do welcome the kind of questions you pose to us on a regular basis, because it does lead to getting people like Carrie in and really pushing the boundaries of what we can achieve and opening up to all to everybody ultimately, because like you said, Carrie, gaming is for everybody. And I think it's really encouraging to think that Rebellion will hopefully be at the forefront of that, especially as an independent developer, and hopefully inspire other companies do the same, because I know people, I know people who were colorblind and really struggled with games, and there was nothing there for them to be able to do it, so it really limited their accessibility. So I mean that some is probably there are probably people who have some real struggles that mean that they can't play at all, and that's and it's kind of allowing them to have as much access as possible. We've still got some time. What I'm trying to think of something that will be pertinent for us to close off. I think before we do go, has anyone got any pertinent questions in the chat that they're desperate to ask either Carrie or any of the dev team? Because tomorrow, when I go back to the chat, if anyone gets on my case about not answering their question, because this is your chance now. We will probably do lots of more AMAs in future. No, I'm not eating. Corinthian. Flop says, would love to see more autism accessible and customizable games. Is that something that you've looked into?
Yeah, so I mean, one of the big things with accessibility is that it's such a spectrum, and like you can't just say, oh, this person has visual impairments and that they're going to represent every person who has visual impairments. And it's the same for anything, any kind of like either temporary or like disability that somebody has. And I think the interesting point there that kind of Flop touched on was customizable. Like accessibility is all about customization and being able to change up the game so that it can fit your capabilities, because what works for one person isn't going to work for everybody else. I know personally that I have a friend who has autism, and they read much better off of like a green colored background, for example. So something that would be cool to see is like UI where you can change the background colors and the text colors so that you can read it a lot easier. And I know that's something that also helps with like dyslexia and things like that. So
Another question for you, Carrie.
Uh-huh.
Those dragon games you played in the past, I presume you knife killed those dragons up close. This is your legacy, Carrie. This is what you've
This
done.
is my legacy. Oh no. Well, my dragon games consist of Dragon Age and Skyrim. And you
So you
can
did
bet
stab
that,
a dragon with a knife.
yes, you can bet that I was dual wielding daggers and taking that dragon down. Absolutely.
Yeah, things have changed in this chat. I had all these preconceptions, and now they're all out the window.
I'm so sorry.
Well, look, you're in amongst other people who probably share a very similar knife wielding in game, obviously.
In game, yes,
Ethic.
exclusively.
I think that will conclude this session today, folks. If you've got any ideas for AMAs that you'd like us to address, please feel free to fire them our way and we can get those set up. We have streams on the horizon, folks, so please do tune in for those. We have check out our social media for any upcoming events that we have going on. Keep active as much as you can in the Discord. We genuinely love hearing from everyone, good and bad. It's always great to hear your thoughts. And for everyone that tuned in today, you guys are awesome. Your questions were great, and obviously, huge thank you for taking the time to Carrie, Stefano, Alistair, and Ryan. You guys are awesome. We really appreciate you answering all of the community questions. That's it. Thank you, folks, and we will surely see you all very soon in the chat and on Steam.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you
everyone.
so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Hey guys, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please do give it a like. It really does help the channel to grow. This is a dedicated Sniper Elite channel, so hit the subscribe button to be kept up to date on all things Sniper Elite, and I will see you guys in the next video!
Brutal Barracuda, a Sniper Elite channel.